Good morning. Welcome to Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship, which we affectionately refer to as Buff around here. I am Sunny, the minister here at Buff, and my pronouns are she and her. And we welcome you to this, our last Sunday service of 2025. As it states on the About page of our website at buff.org, we at Buff are brave, curious, and compassionate thinkers and doers. We are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, and spirituality, but aligned in our desire to make a difference for good. We need not think alike to love alike. So whether you are here for the first time or have been attending for years, whether you are here in person or virtually, you are most welcome here. Although I will say if you are a visitor today, we're going to be talking about some Buff history. This is not typical for every service, so we apologize for the inside baseball today. Following the service, we hope you will join us for our coffee hour downstairs at the social hall. And as you have probably gathered, we will be using our projector and screen today, and you are currently looking at an image of Janus, one of the principal gods in the ancient Roman pantheon. When Tom and I were doing our initial worship planning for this service, I was telling him that I envisioned a service where we'd take some time to reflect back on the past year and then take some time to look forward at what is to come. And Tom suggested we use an image of Janus with the two-headed god who looks both backward and forward. And then I shared with Tom the funny coincidence that there is actually a specific workbook called the Janus Workbook that was created for and used in Unitarian Universalist interim or transitional ministry. Its content is divided into sequential sections of looking back, standing in the present, and looking forward. And that's pretty much the format we're going to use for today's service. Looking back at endings, being with the present, which is often the messy middle in between past and future, and then looking forward to new beginnings. So I invite you to settle in, to put your cell phones into worship mode, and as we prepare to take some time at this year's end, look back and then look forward. So in the spirit of looking back, I would like to share with the congregation the news of the passing of Carol Ann's beloved sister, Connie Gleaves Johnson. And as many of you know, Carol Ann is one of our most respected elders here at Buff, and she provides the chalice for our provides the flowers for our chalice table on the fourth Sunday of each month. And so these flowers are dedicated to her sister Connie. Carol Ann has shared a few cherished memories with us, recalling that this time of year, as kids, Connie and Carol Ann would rush home from school to listen to the Cinnamon Bear on the radio. They often played school, and Connie was the teacher. And as an adult, Connie went on to become a teacher for more than 40 years. And Carol Ann says that she became a perpetual student because of that. So, Carol Ann, we love you, and we are so sorry for your loss. And now, in the spirit of looking forward, a few announcements. There is a choir potluck coming up on Saturday, January 3rd at 4 p.m. here at Buff. Choir members and family and friends of the choir members are welcome. And now I invite up to the podium Rod Haynes to give us an idea of what we can look forward to around Buff in terms of adult religious education offerings in 2026, after which Karen will bring us into worship with a prelude.
Thank you, Sonny. Happy New Year. On behalf of the Adult RE Committee, Religious Education, the committee as a whole wants to welcome you to provide input for our new curriculum in the coming year. And if you would like to join us, please let us know. The committee members include Bonnie Finney, Stephanie Sarver, Tom Nicholas, Catherine Allen, myself, and our exalted leader, Natalie Johnson, who's doing a bang-up job for Adult RE, and we thank her. One last thing, there will be, at the start of the year, for the first 4 Sundays of the year, from 12:15 to 1:45, a course, Introduction to Buddhism, Teachings and Practices by Diane Eberlein. And she will address such questions as, what is the cause of suffering? What is the essence of emotions? What obscures clear seeing? And most importantly, what is the nature of compassion? And the course will include several minutes of meditation before and after. Again, Happy New Year, and please come see us. It's a great committee, and we do good work. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to look out there and see so many familiar faces and also some new faces. So if you're one of those new faces, I will introduce myself. I'm Tom Nicholas. I am the celebrant for today's service, and my pronouns are he and him. Several of the services we have done in the last few months have tracked the turning of the year. In late August, we did a service called The Great Wheel Turning that acknowledged the passing of summer. Just after that, we did a service about work in honor of Labor Day. Around Thanksgiving, we did a service on gratitude, and last week, we did a service on the solstice. Which brings us to today. Here we are, right now, together in this room. And our service today is going to be about New Year's. New Year's, of course, is a kind of threshold. We're stepping out of one year and into another. Standing on this threshold, we can pause to look back at where we have been and then turn and look forward to where we are going and ask questions. Where have I been? Where am I now? How will I navigate change? And as I encounter change in my life, will I be open to being changed? In the service today, we will be inviting you to explore these questions in terms of your personal life, but also, and especially, in terms of Buff as a congregation. And so, as Sunny lights the chalice, we invite you to stand here with us on this threshold, looking back honestly at where we have been and gathering the courage to openly face what's to come. And now, as we stand, I'm sorry, I got confused. And now, as we stand in this place together, please join Sunny and me in reciting our covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service gives it life. Celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth, we work for peace and honor all creation. This is our covenant. And now, as you are able, let's stand together and sing number 58 in the gray hymnal. It's called Ring Out Wild Bells. It seemed like the perfect choice for today's service, but it might not be the most familiar hymn in the hymnal, so Karen is going to play the whole thing through one time, and then when she starts to play again, then we'll join in on the first verse. So Karen's going to play the whole thing through one time to give you a feeling for how it goes. Ring out wild bells to the wild, wild sky, the flying cloud, the frosty light. Year is dying in the night. Ring out wild bells and let it die. Ring out the old, ring in the new. Ring happy bells across the snow. Year is going, let it go. Ring out the false, ring in the true. Ring out the grief that saps the mind. For those that hear we see no more. Ring out the feud of truth and right, or ring in redress to humankind. Ring out false pride in place and blood, the civil slander and the spite.
you hear me okay? All right. My name is Lark. Not very well, you say? Let me enunciate. Thank you. All right. Today, I am going to talk a little bit about the history of New Year's resolutions. So, at the end of the year, people often wonder, what will the new year bring? Long ago, people from many different cultures have had special traditions to welcome the year. Some made promises. Some looked back on the past year and reflected on their triumphs and mistakes. Some prayed and some celebrated. All of them were trying to do the same thing, to look to the future with hope. Today, we are doing that thing as well. We are exploring how we choose hope when we notice we have the ability to start over. So with that in mind, I want to share a story with you about how people have marked the beginning of the new year and how New Year's resolutions came to be. So long ago, when people first began to measure the turning of the seasons, they wondered, what will the new year bring? In ancient Babylon, the people planted seeds in the springtime. They gathered for 12 days to honor the turning of the year. They promised, I will repay what I owe. I will return what I have borrowed. I will step into this new season with honesty and care. They believed that by making these promises, they could walk into the new year with hope. Centuries later in Rome, people honored a god named Janus. Janus was said to have two faces, one looking back to the year that was gone, and one looking forward to the year that was arriving. And at the doorway of the year, Romans promised to live lives of kindness and courage, trusting that how they began the year would shape what lay ahead. Many years after that, communities not so different from our own gathered on New Year's Eve to sing, give thanks, and reflect. They named their mistakes and chose new paths, believing that every year gave them another chance to begin again. And still, through thousands of years and across many lands, people have kept this practice alive. Whether we make our promises to the gods, to one another, or to ourselves, we, sorry, I lost my spot. The heart of the tradition is the same. Each New Year offers us a doorway, like Janus's arch, where we can pause, look back, and look ahead. We may not always keep every promise. We may stumble or fall short, but the tradition itself carries a gift, the gift of hope and the chance to say, tomorrow can be different, I can grow, I can begin again. So what I love about this story is it makes us think about how we view the new year as a symbol of transformation. It means that we can change, and the past doesn't necessarily control our future. So making promises and setting goals are really about the same thing. Trust in our ability to change. And by trusting in ourselves, we also give ourselves the gift of hope. Hope that we can grow, hope that tomorrow can be different, and hope that change is always possible. So thank you for letting me share that. And it is now time to sing the children to their classrooms.
Many of you are probably familiar with the image of the Roman god Janus, who, as Sonny explained, has two faces, one face looking one way and the other face looking the opposite way. Today we're standing at the turning of the year and we're looking first backward into the past and then forward into the future. The word I want to focus on in looking at the past is acceptance. To me, acceptance doesn't mean being self-satisfied and thinking that you're totally fine just as you are. It means facing the reality of what has happened to you. William Stafford has a poem where he's drinking tea with some neighbors. He imagines that the tea contains the last of my jealousy and hate and all those deeds so hard to forget. Absolution, swish, I took the past into my mouth and swallowed it, warm, thin, bitter, and good. Imagine that you could make tea out of all the things that have happened to you during the past year. Imagine swallowing the tea. What would it taste like? A word that, for me, is related to acceptance is opening. To accept our past, we have to open ourselves to it. And to really experience the present, we have to open ourselves to it. And then if we can do that, the future will open to us. It's easy to go through life being on guard, like you have a shield in front of you. We all know there are reasons for doing that. Being open means taking a risk. It really does. It's not just words. I mean, it means taking a risk. It means making yourself vulnerable. For one thing, if you let life touch you, life is probably going to change you. And you don't know ahead of time what that change is going to look like. That's scary. But if life never touches you, well, you're not really alive, right? And if that's the case, what's the point of living? Recently, I have had a few conversations where the other person let down their guard and welcomed me into the moment we were sharing. It wasn't a super heavy thing. I just got the feeling that, wow, this person is really here with me right now. There was a moment in one of these conversations where the other person and I were looking into each other's eyes without talking. I felt in that moment how important it was not to look away. As we move into and through the coming year, may we share as many moments like that as we can. And now, in that spirit, let's sing number 360 in the gray hymnal, Here We Have Gathered. Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. We have gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matter small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, This our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows, and regret, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us as we give, we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
In my welcome remarks a few moments ago, I mentioned the Janus workbook with its content sorted into sequential sections, looking back, standing in the present, and then looking forward. When I see those three sections, I cannot help but think back to my first sermon here at Buff just a few months ago on October 12th, which focused on the work of William Bridges. As a quick recap, the late William Bridges was a preeminent authority on change and the author of the best-selling book, Transitions, Making Sense of Life's Changes. And as I mentioned back on October 12th, Bridges created a model or a map of sorts for navigating transition. In any transition, he says, you can count on 3 phases, first an ending, then a neutral zone in the middle, and finally a new beginning. In Bridges' words, endings are the first phase of transition. The second phase, the neutral zone, is a time of lostness and emptiness before life resumes an intelligible pattern and direction. And then the third phase is that of beginning anew. Recall also that Bridges makes a big distinction between change and transition. As he explains it, our society confuses change and transition constantly, leading us to imagine that transition is just another word for change, but it isn't. Change is your move to a new city or your shift to a new job. It is the birth of your new baby or the death of your father. In other words, change is situational. Transition, on the other hand, is psychological. It is not the events, but rather the inner reorientation and self-definition that has to be gone through in order to incorporate any of those changes into your life. Without a transition, a change is just a rearrangement of the furniture. Metaphorically speaking, and sometimes literally, there has been much rearrangement of the furniture around Buff over the last year. In other words, a lot of change. My hope is that today's service will support the psychological work of transition that will provide a space for a bit of inner exploration and reorientation as we prepare for what is to come in the new year. In a book called In the Interim, Strategies for Interim Ministers and Congregations, the late UU minister, Reverend Margaret Keep, wrote that when we come together as a congregation, we invest that congregation with deep hope. We hold close a vision of what it may be. And life intervenes. As the old saying goes, life is what happens while we are making other plans. Interim or transitional ministry intentionally focuses on what we do when life happens and the future breaks open. I want to acknowledge that life really happened for Buff over the last year. Reverend Paul announcing his retirement and then retiring would have been plenty of life happening for one congregational year, but there was so much more. There were so many oddities and unexpected exacerbations in this transitional year for Buff following the departure of your long-term settled minister. Your search for an interim minister did not end in a match. Remember, I'm a contract minister with some transitional focus that came along later. And you approached the beginning of the congregational year without a minister. Thankfully, Buff had a whole crew of retired ministers in its midst, And Reverend Barbara Wells-Tinhove, who is not here this week, but she stepped up to be the transitional support minister until a more permanent solution was found. And thankfully, Buff also had been cultivating its operations team full of incredible, dedicated Buffsters who stepped up to make sure the day-to-day nuts and bolts of Buff's systems and operations and building and grounds remained operational. And don't forget, it was also during around the same time that Michelle Fox, our wonderful congregational administrator, beloved by all, had to step back from her full-time job at Buff to help care for her sister, and later announced that she would be stepping away entirely from that role, instead becoming a part-time bookkeeper for Buff. Amidst that roller coaster, thankfully, a whole crew of volunteers rallied to fill in gaps in the office. All of this to say, for a good chunk of time, you all really simply could not grieve Reverend Paul's departure or look with anticipation toward your future. There was no doubt that Buff would weather these storms. But what I want to recognize is that many within Buff have been pushed to their limit, have been stretched to their capacity over the last year as the changes just kept coming. Buff's survival was never in question, but many among you have been in survival mode for a long time. Life happened. In the book, In the Interim, Reverend Margaret Keep goes on to say that especially at stress-filled times, folks often yearn to get through and beyond transition as rapidly as possible. William Bridges says the same thing. But part of the work of the minister is to help a congregation slow down and pay attention. So today, I'm inviting us to slow down, to pay attention, and take some time to reflect on just how much life happened over the past year, both within and beyond Buff, to be the face of Janus that looks backward for a moment. So for the next few minutes, I'm just going to read over a short list of events that have happened over the last year or so at Buff, and I invite you to simply slow down and reflect. You may wish to close your eyes. Just notice what comes up for you when I read through this list. And again, if you are new to Buff, apologies. We don't usually go through this much detailed internal congregational stuff. Okay, so going back in time, recall when Paul announced his retirement. Recall that Buff then had to assemble a search team. Beyond Buff, in January 2025, a new administration, a new president took office. As winter turned to spring, the Buff search team was busy working to find an interim minister. In June 2025, Reverend Paul left for good. The interim minister search did not result in a match. Reverend Barbara Wells-Tinhove stepped up to be a transitional support minister temporarily. Buff's longtime keyboard artist, Andrea Rickle, retired. In October 2025, I arrived at Buff, along with a couple of new keyboard artists, Ian and Leah. Around that same time, Michelle stepped back as congregational administrator. Alongside all of these Buff events, the events of your own life unfolded over the past year. So let's just take a few moments of mindful silence as we reflect on all these events, just noticing what's coming up for you right now. Let's take one final deep breath in. And as you exhale, not only letting go of the breath, but letting go of anything you don't want to carry with you into 2026. And as you open your eyes, returning to the room whenever you are ready, just remember, in 2025, life happened. But this is the work in the messy middle of reflecting back on what has been. You may also recall in his book Transitions, William Bridges recommends taking time in that neutral zone, the messy middle, between endings and new beginnings, to write an autobiography. Because, in his words, sometimes it is only when you see where you have been that you can tell where you are heading, because recollection is likely to turn up some useful information. Over the course of the last few months, you have created an autobiography in the form of the history wall downstairs in the social hall. It's a reflection that extends far beyond this past year, and I think it turned up some useful information. I want to take just a few minutes now to show you some of the highlights from the wall before it comes down to make way in the new year for some envisioning we'll be doing together. I'll say more about that in just a few minutes. But for now, a short slideshow. And this is where I get to test my technological abilities. Quill has set me up, but we're going to see if I can scroll through these on my own. Okay. Yes. Okay. So far, so good. Okay, so I just want to start. This is the very beginning of the history wall, and you'll see it goes all the way back to time immemorial with a land acknowledgement to our Coast Salish neighbors and their territory, which remains unceded at this time, that they have continued to steward and that we now live on. And then we also see the arrival of Unitarian ministers in the Pacific Northwest in this area in 1891. As far back as 1949, which is about when the group of folks started gathering at the Bellingham Library to talk about humanist morals, ethics, that kind of a thing. Also in 1949, we see Buff member, yes, Bob Litweiler, thank you, started Service, which remains an organization today doing homestays and international travel. From 1961 to 1969, we had the Spratlins as members. The Spratlins were professors locally and also involved in the civil rights movement as well as the anti-war movement. We also see, speeding through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, a few, I want to point out, the little green cards below are thanks to the Nyblade family, who took the time to put these progression of ministers at Buff. So every time you see a purple card, that's a minister. In the late 1960s, we have Buff members as part of the Underground Railroad helping the folks who were resisting war and moving into Canada to escape the draft. And then there were some challenges in the 70s, but nevertheless, the mortgage was paid off and there were some things to celebrate. This was the old building, I understand, that was on Franklin Street, which was sold in 1985, followed by the purchase of the building we are now in. And there was apparently a walk from the old building to the new, accompanied by bagpipes. And this was the beginning in the early 90s of our partnership with the Mearsavat Unitarian Church in Transylvania. And I included on the side there these little notes, and it recalls a fundraiser specifically around shining shoes. About 15 of the youth took shoes during the service while everybody in the sanctuary wore slippers. $250 were raised, but apparently the kids had never shined shoes, so it made for an exciting service. And then we have Doug Watkins' ministry starting in 1999. I actually met with Doug Watkins. He's now a formal interim minister. He's down at University Unitarian in Seattle. He is the reason I did all the getting to know you meetings. That's something that he does when he arrives. And I just want to point out the little pink note here. Apparently, at the women's retreat during this time, folks got kicked out of the retreat center for rebel beverages and singing that was led by Doug. Okay, it sounds like some folks were there. And someone attended for the first time on Doug Watkins' first day. I believe this is a photo of Doug on the far right. Back in the day, he does not look that different today, I can tell you. We also had apparently some Halloween plays or pageants. The folks that you see there, one of them, let's see, top left, that's Jim Reiner, who is currently in the AV booth. And yes, so the beautiful expansion here that happened in 2009, over $1 million raised for that we now get to enjoy in that beautiful building where all the offices are. Marion Bedell, who we celebrated in a memorial service this year after her passing. There were apparently Christmas pageants, too, or holiday pageants from 2015-ish all the way up to 2019. Maybe you remember even more than are listed here. And of course, Humanitas begins, and Teze, our contemplative worship service on the first Monday of the month. And I also noted some folks who have notes around that, specifically around Kevin Allen Schmidt, our former music director, and his wife Genia, who became the RE director, their arrival, as well as folks who are expressing that Buff has been a safe place for them. A lot of social justice work. Apparently, Buff received the award mentioned above. Bennett Award for Congregational Action and Humanitarian Effort, or Human Justice, my apologies. Also, there were some things noted that were challenges. Of course, the Black Lives Matter action team was formed in 2015, and there were some challenges we faced in our tradition generally around this, as well as it sounds like at Buff. And I appreciate folks putting these notes up there to note not just the happy things, but the challenges, as well as some of the good work of the Black Lives Matter team, not the least of which was the George Floyd bench that went in Fouts Park that's currently there today. And of course, Paul Beckle's ministry, who was the minister immediately before I arrived. And I think that's Doug Branson's note. He arrived for the meditation group and he has stuck around. And Mark Allen, who's not here today, and all the many ways that he has been involved, including the potluck that was just had for Christmas Day. And Jocko and Barbara Tenhove arriving. The COVID years, which Buff apparently weathered better than most because you all got up to speed with online services really quickly, and you put in that HVAC system that apparently helped with the air being a lot cleaner in here. Oh yes, and Gail Tillis, who was welcomed here by Hank Ohana. And the Refugee Resettlement Program. And then a few personal notes. I included this one because this is Wendy Howard, who said she arrived and met her special person, who is up here as the celebrant today. And Natalie Johnson, who revived Interweave, which is now Uplift, which is our LGBTQIA Justice Action team, who also does our welcoming congregation accreditation and status, along with some other folks like Pam Hayer and Grace Nyblade. And Peggy Jones, who moved back to Bellingham in 2024 and joined Buff, followed by her daughter Crystal. So it's a family affair. And finally, 2 notes from our kiddos. This is Natasha, who not only celebrates Buff, but the arrival of a hamster in her life in 2021. And finally, Alice, who you may know as Marianne's 4-year-old daughter, who says that she likes that we gather to have food and she likes the art. So those are just some highlights from the history wall here, just showing all the various things that are going on around Buff, that have gone on around Buff. And thank you, Jim, Quill, and Lena for helping me do that. Whew. So Rachel Freed, a senior fellow at the University of Minnesota's Center for Spirituality and Healing, once wrote for the Huffington Post that telling our stories is not an end in itself, but an attempt to release ourselves from them, to evolve and grow beyond them. We tell our stories to transform ourselves, to learn about our history, and tell our experiences to transcend them, to use our stories to make a difference in our world, to broaden our perspective, to see further than normal, to act beyond a story that may have imprisoned us, to live more of our spiritual and earthly potential. Thank you for taking the time to reflect back and share your stories with me and with each other through this service today, through the History Wall, and also through the 40-some-odd Getting to Know You meetings that I've held over the last 3 months. In my first sermon back on October 12th, I said, I'm here to learn from and with you all. I want to know what brought you here, what keeps you coming back to this place, this sanctuary, and the justice work you all do here. I think I have a good sense of those things now as 2025 comes to a close. And I also said on October 12th, I want to know where you want to go and support you in moving toward those goals and aspirations. So I'd like to take a few final minutes to talk about where we're going as we use the past to build the future. Like Janus, let's not only look backward, let's look forward. So in all my Getting to Know You meetings, the final question I always ask was around your hopes for Buff's future. And looking at the responses, several big themes emerged. Not surprisingly, for many of you, music is a huge part of your experience at Buff, and you want good music to be continued and valued and enjoyed around Buff. You love seeing all the children, the new life at the front of the sanctuary and in our religious education classrooms. You love the future these children represent. You want interfaith opportunities and to learn from other traditions. You want to be a radically welcoming space of beloved community for all. And there was one particular word that came up frequently when I ask about your hopes for Buff's future: vibrant. You want a vibrant future for Buff, which is interesting and a little serendipitous because I used that same word in my own ministerial record before arriving at Buff. When ministers are looking to find a job, they create what's called a ministerial record, and it's kind of like a biographical information, resume information, ministry-related questions, one big record that you submit to a congregation. And I created it this past summer in order to apply here at Buff. And the prompt asked, "What ministry do you hope is ahead for you?" And I answered, vibrant. I hope for a vibrant parish ministry that nourishes congregants and visitors spiritually and relationally, so they may leave the sacred space of our building or virtual broadcast recharged and ready, or as ready as one can be in such chaotic and challenging times, to be and do what they are called to do in their life and out in the world. So it looks like our hopes are in very many ways aligned. And I think there is a vibrant future ahead for Buff. To that end, following the Sunday service on January 18th, we'll be holding an envisioning session, and this will be an opportunity for you to share what you most want to see around Buff in the coming year. Doable things, yes, but also your moonshots, your pie in the sky for Buff. We want to capture those goals and dreams for the future in the same way we captured the past through the history wall, which will soon come down, but we'll save. And last, but certainly not least among the reasons for the future looking bright around here, I want to announce that, thanks to the hard work of our HR committee, we have a new congregational administrator who will be joining us in mid-January. And some of you may already know her because she previously worked at Buff about 10 years ago, before she headed back to school to get a master's in education. Her name is Allison Mathis Yude, and Allison is here today. Allison, would you like to stand up and wave? Yay! Allison, we are so thrilled for you to become our new congregational administrator, and I don't think I can top that, so we'll end there. Like Janus, having reflected backward and now looking forward to what is to come. And what is to come next in our service is our offertory. So every week we lift up the spiritual value of generosity by taking an offering for the ministries of this congregation. And particularly as we close out this year, I want to take this opportunity to remind folks that if you're a member or a friend of Buff who has made a pledge, we are now halfway through the congregational year. The congregational fiscal year is a little funky because it runs from July 1st to June 30th, so it's not quite on track with where we are at the 1st of January. But you should have received a December pledge statement from Michelle. If you haven't, let us know. And as our ushers come forward, whether you are making a one-time weekly offering in the plate today or paying towards your pledge, we are so grateful for your support. Your support means, for example, that we are able to hire Allison as our new full-time administrator. And I know the envisioning session in January will bring a lot of things you will want to see at Buff. So the more generous you are, it means the more we can do within our community and in our world.
We're going to sing a song called In the Silence. This song is special for a lot of people here at Buff. It was written by Rick Herman, who was for many years a very important member of this congregation. And in his honor, his song was placed at the back of the hymnal, where you can find it, or you can find it on the screen, either way. So please join us in singing this. Karen's going to help me lead it.
In the silence that has fallen, brothers, sisters, come to see that our spirits are unbroken, sheltered in love's mystery. Come what may in these dark days, all our hearts are standing still. Love will shine again upon us, and our dream of peace fulfill. All the troubles that delude us, things that I can barely say, truth does not survive unspoken. Without breath it fades away. Come what may in these dark days, all our hearts are standing still. Love will shine again upon us, and our dream of peace fulfilled. If our hearts could burn like fire, if our voices could be the wind, we would give what all desire, freedom, joy, and peace within. Come what may in these dark days, all our hearts are standing still. Love will shine again upon us, and our dream of peace fulfilled. We won't fear the tyrant's anger, fear will never win our hearts. We will not be silenced ever, ere the King his throne departs. Come what may in these dark days, all our hearts are standing still. Love will shine again upon us, and our dream of peace fulfilled.
For our closing words today, I invite you to join me in a responsive reading. I believe the words are on the screen, or you can find it in your gray hymnal, number 544. I will read the words in regular font, and you can read back in the italics. The 1st of January is another day dawning, the sun rising as the sun always rises, the earth moving in its rhythms. So it is. Everything is the same, bound into its history, as we ourselves are bound. Yet also we stand on the threshold. The new year is something truly new, still unformed, leaving a stunning power in our hands. What shall we do with this great gift of time, this year? We are the hearts and minds, the hands and feet, the embodiment of all the best visions of our people. Let us take the step forward together onto new ground. And now, as Tom extinguishes our chalice, I affirm that we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now our closing song, Circle Round for Freedom.